Latest project to come from the basement workshop is a large coffee table. This coffee table is made out of baltic birch plywood that will be veneered with a nice walnut veneer. The table itself is about 4 feet square and it stands about 15 inches tall. This is the main box for the coffee table. There are 2 drawers in it. There's 1 drawer on each end. There's a small 4-inch riser that will raise this whole box up off of the floor. The goals of design for this table is that the veneer will travel up the drawer face and over the top of the table. The drawer fronts will have stepped edges that will fit into the stepped edge of the carcass that you can see here. Edge banding is 9/16 inch wide and about 3/4 of an inch thick. It's the same thickness of my baltic birch plywood. Standard domino for 3/4 inch thick material is usually the 15 by 30, but for this project, because it's fairly delicate and because I'm actually going to mill these edge pieces when I'm done and put a profile in them, I want to stay with an even smaller domino. The smallest domino is the 4 by 20, so we're going to change the cutter in the domino and use these smaller size dominoes to attach the edge banding. I've changed out the cutter, reattach it to the housing. Now notice that the 4mm cutter is shorter than the 5mm cutter. This will have some implications later when we set the depth. My workpiece is clamped down using the quick clamps. I've put in a third-party Dama plate, and this gives me a different reference surface. I'm using the 1/2 inch depth because remember, I'm going to mill my edge banding, and by using the 1/2 inch depth I can keep my domino out of where I'm going to mill the profile. For dust collection here, and this is going to a CT33. I couldn't imagine doing the domino cuts without dust collection. You really need to evacuate the channels from dust, otherwise it seems that things don't work out very well. Finally, when using plywood, especially Baltic birch, it's important to go slow. These cutters can sometimes be brittle. I've broken a cutter using it on plywood before. Lines on my workpiece and also on the corresponding edge. It's very easy just to line it up. I use the bottom reference line here. I'll turn it on, plunge it in, and make a cut. But here we have the 2 small dominoes cut in the end of this drawer front. Made a little jig for cutting the dominoes in the edge band pieces. There's a fence that I've screwed to the bottom of a plate, and this is clamped down. That fence just gives me something to push against when I'm cutting the domino slots into the edge band. You'll note that the fence is shorter in height. Do a dry fit and see how we did. We did okay, but despite my best intentions, it's off a little bit. I'm going to have to change the domino to allow for a wider mortise, and that way I have a little bit of some play with this edge piece. See how it's off ever so slightly here? I want that to be perfect so I get a right miter. To elongate the domino slots on this edge, I'm going to change the setting on the domino. We'll do the middle setting. That'll make the domino cut a little bit wider, and that will give me some play so that I can slide that edge band into the perfect position. Recut these slots. They're a little bit wider, and now you can see that I have some lateral movement. Now I can move that edge band into just the right position. I've cut the dominoes in the longer piece. The slots in the edge band are the first tight slots, and the slots in the plywood substrate are the wider slots. So when we assemble this, we have a similar amount of play. I've noticed that with these wider slots, I've been able to give myself about 4 millimeters of back and forth motion. This is absolutely beautiful. I had to fine-tune the miters ever so slightly with my miter trimmer. These miter cuts were originally made on a Capex and they were very, very close. So I used a miter trimmer to finalize the cuts. Now this is just dry fit. It needs to be glued up. And once it's glued up, then I can veneer it, and then I can mill the profile that I want so that it fits into the end the way it's supposed to fit. But you can see how the Domino makes this process of getting the edge banding on a lot easier. You might consider using a pin nailer to do this, but remember, I'm going to be profiling these edges and I don't want to risk a pin nail going through a router bit. You can use Dominos to do so much more. In fact, the drawers for this cabinet were all assembled using Dominos. This is a large drawer. This is almost 4 feet in length. It's riding on special Bloom drawer glides. But here's the end, and this will be covered by the drawer front. But you can see that this is just a butt joint, and there are 3 Dominos in this butt joint. It's a very simple way to design and construct. This video and just say that Domino lets you do things in the workshop that you might not have otherwise done. When I first saw the Domino, I thought it was a little bit of a gimmick, just like another biscuit joiner, but really it's not. It's much more precise, and with that it's got a permanent place in my shop. Thank you for watching.